Welcome in, friends. Let me ask you a question. Has trauma paralyzed you? Have you gotten to the point where you are so tight and full of anger inside your heart that you simply can't move on because of the trauma caused by people who may have birthed you or people that you birthed, close family and close friends? Trauma has come to you from all directions, and you're simply paralyzed because you don't have the tools to be at peace during all of this chaotic turmoil going on in your life. I've had so much trauma from the time I was a baby. I can remember when I was in a crib in San Francisco, where the first part of my life existed. And my brother is 3 years older than me, and I got hold of my father's army pistol. Now, he wasn't around, but he left his pistol, which my curious brother decided one day to find unknowingly. It was left under my mother's pillow while she was gone, something that happened quite frequently. I was not quite 1 year old, but I was walking. I was still sleeping in my crib, and my brother, who's 3 years older than me, could lower the gate or the side of the crib and let me out. And I remember on this particular day, he let me out. And we were playing whatever game he had me play. He was a genius in making up games and rules for games and conveying that to me as young as I was. And I would just follow his rules, whatever he wanted me to do. And we would just have so much fun. And this particular day, I remember we were playing. I don't know if it was hide and seek or whatever. I do remember my feet on this cold wooden floor. I now know it was a parquet floor because it had all these little squares going in opposite directions as they abutted to the next square. And I remember it was cold. Now, this is San Francisco, and it's in the late 40s, early 50s that we lived there. And my brother, we led me into my mom's bedroom, and we were snooping around, not knowing we were snooping. We were just kids. We were looking around. We were adventurous, and he found my father's pistol under my mother's pillow. And at that point, of course, you want to play with them. We looked at a lot of cowboy movies, and we were both excited that we were able to play cowboys. And so he instructed me, after several attempts by himself, pointing the gun at me and not being able to pull the trigger. Thank God, right? He told me to hold the trigger, show me how to put my hand on the handle, and put my little short finger on the trigger. And he put his finger over mine. And he said, "When I tell you, pull, pull." And so he told me, and we both pulled. All I remember is this huge, thunderous noise, and then the both of us sliding across this parquet floor from what I believe was the living room, but we ended up in the kitchen. I remember the smell, the sound, and not only the sound from the pistol, but the sounds coming out of me and my brother. as we were in shock. We had no expectation that this is what the result would be. Can you imagine what would have happened as he was pointing that gun at me several times and trying so hard to shoot it at me? He had no clue of what the repercussions would be, nor did I. I'm standing there probably smiling, yeah, sure. But we were 1-year-old and 4-year-old kids who didn't have many toys and found this brand new army green, kind of dull colored pistol. And we wanted to play with our new toy. As we gathered ourselves, I was in total shock. I was crying. I do remember that. And Junior scooped me up. That was my brother's name. Rushed me back to my crib. I got in. He put the gate up. And I remember feeling cold. I was shivering. And in the mind of a 1-year-old child, I can't remember the processes of how I was thinking. Of course, I couldn't articulate what was going on in my mind, but I knew from that moment something major had happened, and I didn't know what to expect next. Now, my mom was missing, of course. She often was missing, and my brother put the gun back. He ran into his room, which was in front of my crib, so I could see him in his little bed, and he covered his head up. And I remember before I covered my head up, because I did everything he did, looking at the ceiling because I saw this little stream of light coming down into the living room, and it hit the floor. And I remember these dust particles kind of dancing in the stream of light. My eyes looked up and I saw it. I saw the hole in the ceiling that we had created during this event. So, what we lived in is called a Quonset hut. We lived in a neighborhood where many military people lived, and they had converted these Quonset huts into housing to accommodate all the military families that were located in the San Francisco area. And so the roofs were made of tin, the walls, everything was like a tin, kind of like one of those containers that you'll see on trains, except for the roofs were rounded. So it was just tin. So it made sense that we could see the skylight after we shot the bullet through the tin metal ceiling. I saw that, and for a while, I remember just watching the particles in the light stream dancing around. And later, when I went to school, I learned that that's called Brownian movement. That's always been a significant lesson to me. When I remember in high school when I learned that, I was like, I had a flashback to watching these particles just dancing around in that light stream. So I knew that something was going to follow this event. Something was going, kind of like that feeling as the next shoe is going to drop. Suddenly, my mother burst through the door, and to this day, I wonder how she knew, if the neighbors heard it, if They called her. I don't know, but it wasn't very long before she burst through the door. She saw what happened. Um, there was evidence of stuff on the floor. Um, and I don't know if the smell of the gun smoke was still present when she came in. I can't remember. But the screaming started. She was on fire. She screamed out my brother's name, Junior, Junior. And he knew. He knew what was coming next. She gave that boy a whipping that from my crib I could feel. And I remember his screams and, no, mama, stop. I remember it. And then she started on, I'm a toddler. I don't know anything. I'm just following my brother's instructions. The quiet as kept. We're both as innocent could be. Woman, you left that gun there. That was 100% your fault. Woman, you weren't there to make sure that your children, the little ones you brought into this earth, were protected. I remember the shaking. I remember the screaming. I remember words that I had no understanding of until later. But I do remember thinking in my mind, however little ones think when they don't have a clear logical process. Why didn't she hug me? Why didn't she put her arms around my brother? And thank God that we were unharmed. Her focus was on the trouble that we had caused her and the fact that she had to take time out of her fun day to look after these little urchins. That story is just to let you know that my first awareness of even being alive started with trauma. And from that point forward, as long as my mother was my mother, there was trauma associated with that relationship. And of course, as I matured and grew, there were other traumas related to friends, close friends, family members, children, just husbands. Oh my God, husbands. That's absolutely a curse word to me now. Jobs, managers, just coworkers, you name it. There was trauma of various degrees. Some of them, whatever, you just move along. But others, there are triggers that will force me to think about those things. So I never forget. There's always that repository labeled trauma in my brain that many times goes silent until a trigger wakes them up. And I'm positive that I'm speaking to people who know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I want to take a brief pause here and introduce you to something that has helped me and is helping me to forgive those people. You ever tried to move on, but the hurt just won't let go? Some wounds just don't go away with time. If that sounds familiar, I want to share a powerful, powerful book with you, Forgiving What You Can't Forget by Lisa Turkhurst. This book gently walks you through how to process deep pain, set healthy boundaries, and begin healing without pretending everything is okay. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about finding peace in the middle of it. If you've been carrying something heavy in your heart, this might be exactly what you need right now. You can get a copy with the link in the description. Go take a look and see if this book speaks to you like it did to me. So I want to encourage you, however you do it, if you are carrying around these traumas of abuse by your parents, those seem to be the super significant ones, or husbands who were supposed to protect you and ended up being the ones who harmed you the most. Get some therapy. I was 76 years old when I finally got trauma therapy, and I am so glad I did. I was able to understand where my trauma came from, what I felt like, and how it molded the way I think, how I process situations, how I handle confrontation. It just molded from my crib how I would proceed in life, how it built my character, and how to recognize those components in me that I didn't like and how to correct it. And I encourage you, if you have the opportunity, if you're receiving Medicare, you have benefits that will allow you to get therapy. And it is the best thing I have ever decided to do. I encourage you to do the same thing because while you're feeling that keeping this inside of me and you don't want to wake up a dead horse and all these these different cliches we put to that, or you don't want to offend anyone who's still living, well, hell, they didn't think about offending you and hurting you. Stop protecting the abusers and start taking care of your mental health. It's your life. You didn't deserve what happened to you, but you do need to take care of your health so that from this day forward or whenever you seek help and you start to recognize how you can maneuver the rest of your life feeling lighter and freer and more peaceful, you deserve that. Do that. That's for you. Damn those people who might be hurt by whatever actions you take afterward. When you forgive them, you don't even have to contact them to forgive them. You just forgive them and move on with your life because forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. And I think once you understand that it's for you so that you can have peace and freedom, it'll be so much easier. It won't be easy, but it'll be so much easier to forgive them and fully move on with your life. Yeah, will there be triggers that will make those thoughts or those occurrences come back in your mind? Yes, but through therapy, you're going to know how to handle those moments and not linger there and move on. God is going to take care of them because I truly believe what goes around comes around. Karma will have its day. But what I mostly believe in is that God is the God who will take vengeance on your behalf. You'll never see it, most likely, but just trust that it will happen. And it will happen the way it should happen and when it should happen. So I don't think about, well, how is it that he's walking the earth and all, you know, happy and whatever, and I still am left with the thoughts of all the evil that's been done to me. I don't have those thoughts anymore. I'm like, do your thing. I'm free of you. Thank God. He's got my back. And you know what? I have a good life. I have a really, really good life. I could have gone down the path of being angry for the rest of my life. But because I chose to step into therapy, just to understand who I am, I came out not only knowing who that is, but with tools that allow me to handle whatever comes my way. And I thank God for that. And when I started reading Lisa Turker's book during a Christian women's small group, the lights just turned on because through her words and the eyes of her own trauma, I was like, oh my gosh, this is icing on the cake to my trauma therapy and just confirmed everything that I discovered. So I'm rambling on. I'm going to end this. What I wish for you is for you to get healthy and to gain peace through forgiving those people who have hurt you. You'll never forget, but you'll learn how to handle the situations and the thoughts when they arise. So until next time, be kind to one another.